Okay, uh, I think we have the vote on 19.
We do 19 regarding grand points for defeating champions or grands. It received 186, which met the 50% threshold for the 50%. There we go.
And you closed the voting on 19.
Yes.
And voting on 19 is now closed. Okay, we're on to number 20. And again, if you have a resolution from the floor, please email Aline or text Aline, email or text Rachel with your resolution so we can get it ready for presentation. Mary Kay, you're recognized.
Okay, this resolution removes. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Mary Kalenchak, Lilac Point Fanciers and United Color Point Short Hair Fanciers.
That's okay. It's your first time, Mary. Miss it.
Okay, this resolution removes the 5% decrements in the national regional scoring of finals and instead scores what I call actual points. That's not me, is that me?
No, hang on, Marcia, your iPhone, you need to mute.
All right.
There, I did it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so how is that happening? Because I want to make my voice echo like that, but okay, let's get back to this. So instead of having the 5% decrements in national and regional scoring, we would get cats in each placement would get 1 point for each cat defeated. It does not change the 10% decrements for champions, nor does it change the 5% decrements for the brown and orange ribbons. And please let me explain those first before I get into the rationale. The reason I did not remove, and I did this in consultation with the co-sponsor. So who was the co-sponsor? Superstition. So right, yeah, Superstition Cat Fanciers. I talked to Joan about this and we talked about it. And the 95% or the 5% decrements make sense for the brown and orange ribbon because classes are never really that big. A class has to get to 20 cats for actual points to be more beneficial than the decrements. So most of us know that if your cat gets a brown ribbon, if there's 2 cats in the class and your cat gets the brown ribbon, second best cat gets 0.95 points. If we did actual points, that cat would get 0 points. But with the 5% decrements, you still have these small rings. And those small rings add up, especially to people looking for regional wins. If you don't replace 100 rings, you get to count all those rings. So we didn't want to mess with that because you actually get more points in class that way. The reason I didn't want to mess with the champion decrements is because I don't want to look at changing the 275 points for those titles. Let's just leave those alone. I thought if we counted the actual points for those titles, we would have to increase those numbers, and I don't want to go there yet. So the reason I brought this up before, I brought this up 2 years ago, and part of what people said against it was that this would squish the points, that we'd have ties, that this would, cats wouldn't be separated enough. Well, Dick Kallmeyer ran the scoring. He took that season and he ran it both ways. And it turns out that's just not true. The differential between placements for some cats increases. Like that year, best cat of the year was separated by less than 300 points. I think it was two something. It was less than 300. If with actual points, they would have been separated by over 500. Some cats, the differential decreased. Some cats, it's increased. What I really think happened was cats that were making lower finals in top 15s, like maybe they were making 15th, 14th or whatever, they picked up more points from those finals. So they increased. But in reality, the cats that were getting national wins were still going to get national wins. Some placements changed, but they were still up there. The biggest effect was for cats that only made a couple of finals per show, made them low. They would pick up more points from those finals, and the show would be more lucrative for them. I don't see this as benefiting national winners. I really don't. When I look at the data, the same cats are going to win. I mean, you might have a different strategy, but if you want a national win, you're going to get it no matter what scoring system is there. This is going to benefit the people who are looking for regional points and who maybe want to go to a local show that they want to, that they think that, well, they're not going to be able to keep enough points because they're going to score too low in the final. But with this, they'll be able to score more points. And I think that it changes the strategy for people so that they can have more flexibility in what points that they pick, what shows they pick. Now, there has been an argument. The argument was raised the last time that this is going to hurt small shows because people will be more likely to travel further distances to bigger shows if they think that they can get one final worth a bunch of points. And all I have to say to that is people pick shows other than the national campaigners at the end of the season. People pick shows based on 5 factors: location, 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 lineup, and counts. Most of the time, people are still going to go to the show that is closest to them, whether it is big or small. This lets them keep more points from that show that is closer to them. I think that it will benefit all exhibitors. And I really hope that people can make this change. One more point. Aileen Shifnisky mentioned earlier that we need to start helping our new exhibitors understand our system better. This goes a long way towards doing that. 1 point per cat defeated. That's all it is.
Thank you, Mary Kay. Tim Schreck, please, you're recognized. Please state your name and club. Unmute, Tim. Did Tim get kicked out? Okay, Carissa.
I strongly object to this. Of Chris Altschul, Hugger Mugger, Land of Oz. I strongly object to this because it really makes best cat no longer a big deal. And best cat or best kitten should be a big deal. There should not be 9 points difference between best cat and 10th best cat. I mean, they're traditionally in CFA, and not just our association, other cat associations, even in NASCAR, first place has a meaning and it gets more points because it was best. And I understand the rationale behind this. I just don't agree with it because it really diminishes what a best cat or best kitten means. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Schreck, unmute your mic and you're recognized. State your name and the club.
This is Tim.
Go
Tim
ahead.
Schreck. I didn't have my hand up, so I have nothing to say on this. Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. A minute ago, your hand was up and you got kicked out. So Aileen Shafnisky, name and club, please.
Aileen Shafnisky, Turkish Angler Fanciers International. To Mary's point, sometimes depending on your breed, you're maybe looking at lineup before you're looking at location. But I can tell you from personal experience, I just try to explain to someone how your cat came in 15th in a class of 100 and you only got 15 points out of it. It just doesn't make sense. And frankly, it almost is, well, I mean, at least you get some points, but you're punishing these cats who are potentially very nice by knocking them all the way down the scale. If you beat a cat, it should be a point. That's it. Simple, done. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb Schreck. Name and club, please.
Barbara Schreck, Anthony Wayne, Cat Fanciers, and Russian Blue Cat Fanciers. Well, Mary Kay has said that this doesn't change the order of the winners. So why do we even need to change this? I think that there should be some recognition between whether you're best, second, third, or fourth. If there's only 9 points difference between the first cat and the 10th cat, why even bother? Just give them all the best cat and be done with it. I mean, she's stated that it doesn't make any difference or very little difference in the outcome of the national wins. So why do we need to change this?
Thank you.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, you can.
No,
I do the recognizing, please. You may respond, Mary Kay.
Thank you. I never said that this does not change the order. I said that the top cats will still finish in the top. They do swap places. But you have to be careful when looking at this data because you can't apply one formula to a season that has already been run. People's strategies would have changed during the season. So the order may not have even changed with this, but I just know that the top cats are still going to finish in the top. This is not for the top cats. And I just wanted to get that out there and get that straight.
Okay.
Oh, wait. No, go ahead. That's fine.
Okay, Lori, name and club, please.
Lori Coughlin, Greater Lancaster Feline Fanciers. Gee, Mary, I've agreed with you on almost everything all day long, but we part ways here. I believe that you don't fix what ain't broke. The current system works. I believe there should be a greater separation from best cats and the others. But my biggest concern is, as a member of many show producing clubs and a sometimes show manager, that if you had a entry of 61 and the big show had 101, the best cat at the 61 show would make fewer points than the 10th best cat at the 100-point show. And it's just too big of a difference. I'm fortunate enough to live where there are choices. And I don't see people coming to the medium and the small shows when there's this much of a difference in an individual ring. I just don't see the need for this.
Okay, thank you. Sue, you're recognized, name and club.
Sue Robbins, Delaware River Cats. I like this proposal, and the reason I like it is I think it gives a true picture at the end of when all is said and done of what was actually the best cat, because you have real numbers of cats defeated. Yes, in the larger shows, it is also, I believe, a much fairer way of distinguishing the point differences. And you know what? It's still a big deal when your cat earns a best cat. You know, if you defeated 101 cats, you still get those 100 points. And, you know, second best cat is still second best cat, not best cat. I think it makes, to mix my metaphors, I think it makes for a tighter horse race. And I think it actually will possibly make for a more exciting end of year finish when nobody knows exactly how it's all going to play out until the very end. I'm for it.
Thank you. Black, you're recognized, name and club, please.
Kathy Black, Texoma Cat Fanciers. Is there any way I can share my screen? I have a spreadsheet I'd like to show. Is that possible?
Ellie,
We will have to stop sharing and she'd have to share if you want to.
that's fine. I don't care.
Well, I want to speak against this. I think it's going to seriously hurt our smaller clubs. Just like what was mentioned earlier, if you could have a decision to make between two shows, and one show has 100 entries and another show has 60 entries. If you got best cat at the 60 entry show, you got 60 points, okay? But if you went to the larger show and you got 10th best cat, you'd have 91 points. So why would you ever go to a smaller show? I think it's going to seriously hurt our smaller clubs. I think that, yeah, it says I can't share. So if there's just too much of a difference between the show counts when you only step it down by one. You could get 10th best cat in several rings and have a much more effective show, more bang for your buck, so to speak. And I just think it's going to hurt those smaller clubs. So all the clubs that I am part of, they've all spoken against this. I agree our system of scoring is complex and it's hard to describe it to new people. but I also don't like the way it bunches everything up together. I think that there should be separation. A best cat is a best cat. Some of the comments that have been made before, I mostly just kind of wanted to show my spreadsheet, but if that's not possible, I'll stop now, but my
Kathy?
clubs that I represent are against this. Yes, sir.
We can do it. Okay,
She can go ahead now. She can share her screen.
it says only the host. So we got to do all participants. I'll click it.
Yeah, now that, I mean, I don't want you to make me a co-host or anything like that.
No,
if you
it's
don't.
okay. We'll switch it right back. Share your screen.
Okay, sure. This was not put together by me, it was put together by Orca Starbuck. But this was our current system on the left. This is the Cats Defeated system. She brought the Tika system in here. I'm not going to address that, although personally it's my favorite. So this is what I was talking about. A count with 61 cats under our current system, 10th best would get 33 points. If 101 cats, 10th best would get 55. With the proposed changes in the 61 count show, 10th best cat would get 51 points. 51 points is almost as many as it would get in our current system. And then in the bigger show with 100, you would get 91 points, which is almost the same as if you went to one of the bigger shows under our current system and got best. So there's just not enough separation. It really is going to hurt the smaller count shows. It's like the fat cats get fatter. It's going to really help the larger shows. And I think it's really going to hurt our small shows.
You're not gonna go there. These people do not understand. She probably never run a cat.
Okay, so Shelley, you can go ahead and put it back up. Okay, there we go. All right, thank you, Kathy, for sharing that with us. Clinton Parker, you're recognized. Name and club. You're muted, Clinton. You're muted.
Keep them muted.
I'm sorry, I had a glitch there. Anyway, I'm very opposed to this. I think it's going to, as stated before, I think this is going to really hurt small clubs. Yeah, you can do the statistics. Yeah, top cats who finish national. Yeah, they're not going to score much different because you look at if you look at the cats that finish in the top 5 nationally every year, most of the shows they go to, they're going to finish in the top 5, top 3, and most of the finals they go to. So the points aren't the decrements of 5% aren't going to make that much difference. But when you get down to the 6 through 10, the 5% makes a lot of difference, and you're now going to have, and it's going to change strategy. People will, like they said, people go to these other shows because they can get a lot of points for 10th place cat if they get only 1 point down each point. It doesn't give a differential for the, I mean, to me, being a best cat or even finishing the top 3 or 5 is just so much more. I mean, I don't know how many people exhibit here. I mean, to me, I go to a show and I make a top 5 final. I always think of that as being, wow, that's what I'm hoping for. And I'd like to make the top 10, but wow, that top 5 is nice. You go this system, it's just, hey, I'm gonna make the final. And if you don't make the final at all, it's like, gosh, you go from getting a lot of points to nothing. And it's the scoring system, 5%, I don't agree with. I think it should probably be like 3% down per ring, but that's not the issue here. The 1% is just, I mean, going down 1 point each ring, it's going to really kill the smaller shows. I just think it's going to absolutely kill them. Anyway, that's my point.
Thank you, Joan. Name and club, please.
Joan Freidenberg, Superstition Cat Fanciers. I am looking at this kind of from the opposite of what some people have been saying. I think it's going to help the smaller clubs just because if I enter a cat in a really large show, I have a much lower chance of actually making a final than if I enter that cat in a smaller show. And to me, if I'm not going for national, if I'm just trying to get a regional win, I'm going to go to the smaller show where I think my cat has a better chance of making the final. And so that, yes, the number differential from best cat in a large show to 10th best in a smaller show is going to be greater, but it still seems to me that I'm personally going to do better going to the small shows. Excuse me. If I go to a small show, or if I have a choice between going to a huge show that's farther away or a small show that's closer, I'm going to go to the small show.
Okay, thank you. Brad Newcomb, name and club, please.
Brad Newcomb, Triple Crown Cat Fanciers. I just want a couple of points. One, I sort of see both sides of the coin, but I will say that I've been showing for quite a while now with CFA. We don't ever look at the number of cats entered in a show. We never have. That's not anything we ever take into account when we enter a show. We look at location and lineup. I've had regional and national wins, and you look back for the last 10 years, we've had regional and national wins every year for the last 10 years. And point count is not the most prominent thing we take into account when we look at shows. So with that said, I don't think it would impact as much. I agree with Joan, what she was saying. If I am looking at maybe wanting to get a regional win and I've got a show that's got 60, then my 10th best is worth 49 points. Right? So, you know, and that's more points that I'm going to get for a 10th best at that show than I'm going to get going to a bigger show and not getting any placement. So I think it can have the opposite impact. I think it will support the shows. I think we will not see any impact from changing the point scale. I agree with what Sue said. It makes for a tighter horse race at the end of the day. And I think it helps keep people honest when you're in terms of, and one of the topics that we've seen in the past have been show stuffing and things of that nature. I think this helps keep people a lot more honest when it comes to those types of activities. So,
thank you. Mary Kay, you're recognized, name and club, please.
Mary Kolenchek, Lilac Point Fanciers, almost forgot my club there, United Color Point Short Hair Fanciers. So I want to address some of the points that brought up. Every scenario, every single scenario that anybody can dream up where somebody would pick a big show versus a small show, I can counter that with scenarios where someone would pick a small show versus a big show. And I got news for everybody. We don't have that many big shows anymore. They're all starting to be small. Other than Cotton States, the San Diego show, Garden State, other than those, they're all starting to be small. So I don't know where this fear is that somehow small shows are going to just crumble up and die if we pass this. It's just not true. You still, most of your entries in championship are from people trying to grand cats. They're not going to haul butt all the way across the country because they might get a top 10 final. They're going to go for their local show. It's location, location, location for most of the people showing their cats. And so I really, this makes more sense. It just makes so much more sense to just get a point for every cat defeated. There's something that Lori said. She said that if a show had a count of 50 or 50, let's say 51, and best cat got 50 points, that a cat that gets 10th at a show with 100 would get more points. Well, yeah, it defeated more cats. You get points for the cats that you defeat. That's all this is. Our current system over penalizes the cats that are placed lower in the final. It's a math thing, and it really over penalizes them. This just makes it fair. Everybody, 1 point for each cat defeated. That's it.
Thank you, Mary Kay. Jennifer Redding, name and club, please.
There, let me unmute. Jennifer Redding, Southwest Japanese Bobtail Fanciers. So I was originally for this, and then I talked with Orca and I saw her evaluation and I thought about it. And you know what? I think this is an East Coast, West Coast problem. On the East Coast, it's location. If you're on the West Coast, a lot of times you're going to have to travel anyway. If you want to go to any show at all, you're going to have to drive a long distance or get on a plane. And so what show are you going to choose? You're going to choose the show where you can potentially get the most points, the most bang for your buck. And if you go to this scoring system, the most bang for your buck is the big show, where you're going to get 90 points for 10th cat or 85 points for 15th best cat if you're doing a top 15, rather than going to a show with 50 cats or 40 cats. And if you make every final in the top 3, you're going to get far less points than if you make 2 or 3 finals in the top 15 at a show with 100 cats. So I honestly feel that for the entire western part of the United States, where we have large distances to travel in between shows, and we often have to make a choice, we can't make a choice on location. Everywhere we go is going to be a long way to travel. That what it's going to do is it's going to make the smaller shows smaller, because all the people that are going for regional wins are going to want to go to the big show because they can make more points in less finals that way. So I honestly, it might help small shows on the way down to the East Coast, but on the West Coast, I honestly feel it's going to hurt. So our club is voting no on this.
Aline, name and club, please.
Aileen Shafnisky, Turkish Angora Fanciers International. I feel like some of the people have looked at these numbers and not derived the correct information from them. I don't think this is going to have any effect on small shows whatsoever. When you guys are talking about, oh, we're going to go for the big counts and the big points, you're talking about campaigners. We need to focus on exhibitors from top to bottom. This will not hurt small shows. It'll help them, because the big guns are going to go to those big, huge shows because they know they'll get more points from being in 10th with 100 cats than, you know, even being best. But that's fine. This is still an equitable scoring system that more accurately reflects where your cat is placed within the entire show hall. This is only good for us. Stop thinking about big wins, big campaigners, big points. Think about everyone involved here, and think about everyone who's ever gotten 15 points on a 15th best cat in a 100 count show. Thank you.
Okay, Beth Deal, please state your name and club.
Beth Deal, One Fine Day. As Elaine just said, you've got to think about the whole picture. Why do I want to waste my time taking a cat to the International that might make 20th or 18th and get 5 points? I'm gonna have to throw them away. It's a waste of my time. It's a waste of my money. It's a waste of everything. We're not talking about the big campaigners. We are talking about show people as a whole. And we need something that makes sense to show people as a whole, not just the campaigners. And as Beth takes away from best cat, nothing takes away from best cat. I don't care if my cat gets the same number of points as the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th place cats. If my cat is best cat, my cat was deemed to be the best cat present. Nothing point-wise takes away from best cat. Thank you.
Okay, Mary Kay, I'll recognize you in just a minute. I got Loretta, and then I'll recognize you to do a closing statement. Loretta, name and club, please.
Canusa Cat Club. The real impact on this proposal is on the 10th to 15th best cat. Most campaigners, and I've campaigned, are looking for a top 5. We have shows that are around here that will get a huge, huge count. And the local people won't go. They say, we can't compete in that kind of a show. It's a campaign show. If you go to a final as 100 cats and you come in 15th, you're getting 30% of the points. If you do it in a special, I came home from an international show with a cat of mine that was a top 3 national winner, then ended up getting with 12 points from a specialty final. Those are the first points I threw away. This really helps the people with at the bottom part of that 10 to 15 to only get a handful of points. If you're in a huge show with the increments, is just a waste. I mean, it's insulting. Somebody said, well, how many points did you get? And I think it was 12. And they said, you're joking. And I said, no. And there's all these cats here, and that's all the points we walk away with. I'm fully supportive of this, and I hope that people will consider it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Loretta. Mary Kay, would you mind giving your you can answer questions and give your closing statement, please.
Hey, I'm sorry, I would not have spoken before. I thought I was closing then, but I just want to say now that I used to live in Maryland, and there were times when I did not take a cat to national capital because I thought the competition is just too great. People who think that, those of you who think that people are suddenly going to start taking their cats to these big shows, we're not going to take them there unless we think we can make a final. And the chances of making a final at a big show that's full of all the top campaigners, very, very slim. This benefits the people trying for regional awards. Now that I live in Florida, if I'm trying for a regional win and I've got a show in Sanford or Plant City where the count is only 50 or something, am I going to travel with this cat to San Diego or somewhere else that's really a big count? Heck no, I don't need those big counts for a regional win. I can get a regional win with smaller counts. It's the entire season that you have to pick up the points. People that are going for regional wins are not suddenly going to start buying plane tickets to travel across the country. It's just not going to happen. And I really, ever since I have been in this hobby, I have thought that we should be doing it this way. Thanks.
Thank you, Mary Kay. Okay, so debate is closed on number 20. Aline has opened the voting on number 20. And we will move on to non-show rule resolutions, number 21. And that, that's the,
21.
that 21 is
Removed,
vacant because we've already handled that. I had the old printout, so. All right, so let's move on to 22. Is that next, Rachel?
Correct.
Okay, there we go, number 22, and this is from the executive board. And who is taking that one? Mary Kay, your hand's still up. Do you have something else to say? I don't think so, she's gone. Cindy Bird, you're recognized. Name and club, please.
Cindy Bird, Malibu Cat Club, Marina All Breed Cat Club. This is a question that was posed to the board about whether CFA would register cloned cats. CFA some years ago had made a statement about cloned cats not being eligible for registration, but it was never in writing. So the board is presenting CFA's choice position that cloned cats are not eligible for registration in CFA.
Okay, Jackie Bennett, you're recognized.
Jackie Bennett, Aussie Cats International, Ragamuffin Cat Club. I think this is a mistake. Cloned cats are reality, and it is something that is going to get less and less expensive over time. While I do not want to see cloned cats used in breeding programs, I think CFA would be better to say cloned cats can be registered, but can be registered only as not for breeding. We are giving up a marketing option. We are giving up a profitability thing. And I think it is the wrong decision. I would prefer that CFA have a policy of cloned cats will be eligible for registration as not for breeding only. And that would allow somebody to have their little heart cat. They could show it in premiership and we wouldn't have to worry about replicate paid. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Pam Delabar, you're recognized.
Pam Delabar, Sophisticat Club, Chat Noir. I was one of the people who promoted this as president of CFA to not allow cloned cats. I am probably one of the few people that have ever handled cloned cats. The first one came from Texas A&M University. The other two names were Tabuli and Baba Ganoush, and they were Bengal clones from Genetic Savings and Clone. They do not reproduce. You're not going to get the same cat when you do the cloning. We're looking at this from an animal welfare concept. It is not legal in all countries in all states to have cloned cats. It is also very a very negative picture for CFA to present to when we're fighting animal restrictive legislation, and especially some of the breed restrictive legislation that we've got going on in Europe. And I know it's going on in the US as well. Please, please, let's keep our policy. It's a policy. It's not cast in stone. It is a policy not to register cloned cats.
Thank you, Carol Johnson, who is a veterinarian, by the way. You're recognized, and you're also the chair of our genetics committee.
Yeah. So Carol Johnson, Americans West Cat Club and National American Shorthair Club. I was asked an opinion on this, and I think some of the things that I was concerned about is that somebody buys a cat from somebody else and clones it. Whose cattery goes on the clone? Do you own the cattery? Do you own the cat that you sold? Do you own its clone? Or is it going to be entirely different? Can it be registered now under your cattery name? And there were some, it was pointed out correctly by Pam, these cats are not identical. Pattern, let's say spots on a Bengal, are not identical when you clone the cat. So it is not an identical animal. I do understand that you will limit the progeny of this cat on this particular, on some of the scenarios, but I don't think we're to the point yet that we quite understand what all of the ramifications are as to who will be ownership. Can that clone be cloned? At what point does the original breeder of that animal lose control out of that? So my recollection of some of this discussion was based upon the fact we just don't have all the answers yet.
Thank you, Carol, so much. George Eigenhauser, name and club, please.
George Eigenhauser, Bonita and West Shore. I want to agree with Carol Johnson and with Pam on this. This is just a policy. Policies can be changed. But right now, cloning is a very immature industry. There's no agreed standards on what a cloning facility does. In order to clone a cat, they have to harvest eggs from another cat in order to insert the genetic material. There are no standards for what happens to that cat, how many times they use it, whether it gets rehomed after it's done or simply put down. Same thing with the gestational mother, the one that has to carry the cloned cats. There's no standards for their conditions. There's no standards for how they're going to be cared for. There's no standards for what the laboratories are going to do when they're done. This is a horrible animal welfare issue. At some point, 5 or 6 or 7 years from now, this may be a mature enough industry that there are standards, that there are respected companies doing this that we can trust. But even now, the way it's being marketed by some of these cloning companies is basically you can have your dead cat resurrected, and it creates an unreasonable expectation on the part of the consumer as to what they're getting. These are not hobby breeders doing the cloning. These are big commercial operations. We are an organization of hobby breeders, of fanciers, of people who breed cats for the betterment of the breed. How does cloning do that? And it doesn't under the current standards. Having said that, no policy is forever. What this is a statement of is that right now today, cloned cats are not eligible for registration in CFA. That doesn't mean in 2 years or 3 years, when we work out things like, can they be registered for breeding? What rights should the original breeder have if a cat they sold gets cloned? What kinds of laboratories will we work with in conditions? Those issues may be resolved, and we can always revisit this issue in the future. We used to have a policy we didn't take Bengals. We don't have that policy anymore. As the Bengal breed matured and changed, we changed with it. Right now, cloning is the wild, wild west. It is totally unregulated. It is all over the place. There are huge humane concerns. For right now, today, this isn't something we're ready to deal with. So let's pass this now. And if there is a time later that somebody comes up with a proposal that actually works, that the delegation agrees with, we can always change the policy later.
Thank you, George. Michael Shelton, you're recognized.
Mike Shelton, Los Colores, and New Millennium. I'm mostly reiterating what George said. We're not ready to do this. This is something that's going to take a lot of thought. It's an extremely complex issue. It is not a simple on or off. Yes, we do accept them, or no, we don't. To me, the important thing here is we have to have a stated policy. Right now, we have no policy. So if somebody comes to us, it's going to depend. The answer they get is going to depend on who answers the question. And we just need to have something in writing that everybody can refer to.
Yep, thank you. Cindy Bird, I'm recognizing you to give your closing statement.
Thank you to Carol and George and Mike for your wise explanations. This is something that CFA needs to do. We need to have a policy that states what we stand for in terms of this. I think the animal welfare idea, the emotional problems for people who expect to get their heart cat back and don't, there are just so many problems. And this puts our policy in writing for as long as we need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so debate is closed on 22. Aline, would you close the voting on motion 20? And open the voting on motion 22. And Rachel, will you announce the vote for motion 20?
Proposal 20 regarding the removal of the 5% decrements received 144 yes votes. 143 was required for 50%. So resolution 20 passed by 50%.
Okay, so that motion passed by 50%. Okay, let's move on to 23. Mary Kay, I believe that's you again. Oh, hang on.
Yes,
Hey,
Mary
hang on a
Kay.
minute. Mary Kay, just a moment. Adrian, you're recognized. Name and club.
Adrian Wolfson, Abyssinian Midwest Breeders. I don't know if you guys noticed that there was some chatter on the chat about the verbiage for the question for question 20, and I was trying to get to you guys before you closed it, was not the same as it was the verbiage for proposal 19, not the verbiage for proposal 20.
Okay, Dennis, was that what you were trying to tell us?
I was really
Exactly.
trying, I was trying to get to you guys fast enough so you didn't close it out.
Well, it's already closed and
Verbiage on the question. The ballot question.
okay, whose motion was it, Adrian? Was that Mary Kay's 20? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, Mary Kay, can you come on and address that?
I don't understand the problem. Is she saying that on the question on the web page for number 20, it didn't have number 20, it had the verbiage for 19? Is that what it was? I'm not even reading the verbiage. I'm just voting yes and no, or whatever.
Yes, all I'm doing is reporting back that people on the chat indicated that proposal 20 on the voting site had the description for proposal 19.
Okay, that's not my problem.
Right, exactly, Mary Kay. I wasn't saying that.
Well,
I'm just,
okay, Mary Kay, we know what your proposal number 20 was. And
But were there people who would have voted for it if there had been the correct verbiage?
that's the question, I think. I'm sorry, I know I seem to be the problem child.
no, you're
having
not.
brought up
Okay.
the,
It's okay. So hang
Yeah.
on a second.
Do we need to redo that vote is my question.
Can we redo? Okay, so Mary Kay, I think we all, I know I was looking at the printout of that. If there's someone that's confused about it, then what we're doing is we have to get a hold of Kathy Durdick in order for her to get on and take that the wrong verbiage down, put up the correct verbiage, and then we can reset the vote, and then we'll re-vote on it.
Mr. President,
Yes, you're recognized.
Might it be simpler, George Eigenhauser being in West Shore, might it be simpler to simply use one of the slots available for the floor proposals? We have 5 empty slots with no verbiage at all.
Did you get any more?
Have two.
So
Okay, we got 2. So let's just go to number 5.
Number 105.
And that,
Number
no.
question
No.
105, but it's.
Oh, yeah,
fifth
question
under the
105. Oh, okay, got it.
We can do
Okay.
that.
All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna have the verbiage for 20 put up in a resolution floor from the floor 105.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, Kathy said she can fix it, but this will be quicker.
Yeah.
So we'll come back and vote on that, but
Uh,
not discuss.
Yeah.
So revote.
So what we'll do, as Dennis just put on the thing, the pre-notice was correct. The wrong proposal got uploaded onto the voting website. So we will put the correct verbiage for 20 in floor resolution 105. And when that's up, then I'll call for the vote, okay? Mary Kay, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Rich Maston, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you. Mr. President, do we need a motion to void number 20 since it was incorrect for the record?
I think, Shelley, can't we rule it out of order since it was the wrong proposal?
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and I don't have the voting software because I'm not voting. So I was unable to see that portion of the hearing. But I will rule that out of order because it had inappropriate information for the vote that was taken. So I'm just ruling it out of order.
Okay, all right.
Mr. President?
Yes.
And for the record, when we vote on proposal 105, we're treating it as a pre-notice resolution. Therefore,
Correct.
If it gets 2/3, then it gets the priority that it would get.
Correct.
As a pre-notice show resolution.
Correct. Yep, it's just a shortcut, so we don't have to take one down, put another one up. I think it'll just be done quicker. All right, so do we want to go ahead? I think what we can do is we can go ahead and do 23, and then hopefully it'll give Kathy time to put that resolution up, and then we'll vote on that at that point in time. So Mary Kay, would you go ahead with 23?
Okay, I was just going to, I have this in my notes. This might be the last time I talk, so I wanted to thank central office and all the people involved for how smoothly this has been going so far. And I'm still going to do that, even though we have this glitch, because I thought today was going to be a lot more difficult, and you guys have made it with all the training and everything, have made it a lot better. So I just wanted to say that was my last chance to speak. And now I'll go on to number 23, which lowers the requirement for the mail DM from 15 to 10. However, I want to explain that there is a cutoff in this so that we do not have a slew of historic new DMs. When we discussed this on Facebook, a lot of people were like, well, what are, we're going to have a bunch of sudden DMs, and we didn't want that. So the mail has to still be active. And the way that I define that the mail is still active is that the mail has produced a qualifying offspring within the last 5 years. Now, historic males found through line chasing can still become DMs with 15. So they're not going to be out of luck here. But to get a DM, the cat has to have been active within the past 5 years so that we don't have a bunch of new DMs. And I have to say that I have a male that has 13 grands, and I do not think that he deserves to have a sudden DM. He was active in the early 2000s. He didn't make it. He doesn't deserve it. So I think that this cutoff is absolutely essential. And I want to emphasize that we passed this before, in fact, recently, and the board declined to implement it. So here it is again, and it's going to keep coming back because some of us feel that this is really important. We are very, very concerned about the health issues that we're seeing in our breeds because of the lack of genetic diversity. And when CFA has an award, the CFA has a specific high value award that rewards the overuse of males and creates popular sires. that can contribute significant health issues to a breed, then this is just not right. I'm looking at Siamese pedigrees and I'm gobsmacked at the lack of diversity because of popular sires. And it has been that way ever since I started breeding, but it's gotten worse now, because I used to be able to find 12 to 15 Siamese breeders within a 2-hour drive of me up in Maryland. Not now. There are very, very few people still using this breed that I could possibly work with. And we have very few lines that are distinct. So I'm very concerned about our breeds. I want to ask you, if you think that this is wrong, I want to ask you to tell me this. If a cat can produce 10 qualifying offspring, it can produce 15. So what do you think we are gaining from 11 to 15? What is being proven with those cats? And if you can't answer me exactly what's being proven with those cats, then the only reason you want to keep this requirement is because it's how we've always done it. And I think it's time for us to really focus on the genetic diversity of our breeds, because we are all in decline. We're declining in the number of breeders, we're declining in the number of lines, and we are really harming our genetic diversity by encouraging people to overuse males.
You done, Mary Kay?
Yes, for now, yes.
Okay, well, tenacious is one of your strengths. Okay, I think everybody will agree with that. Okay, Tyler Deal, please state your name and club.
Tyler Deal, Ohio State Persian Club. The underlined section says 10 for males that have produced a grand champion or grand premier after January 1st, 2016. Does this ignore cats that have become distinguished merit of their own right after that? Because currently, if you DM a cat, it counts as a qualifying cat for the distinguished merit, as a grand champion and grand premier do as well.
Can I respond?
Yes, you may.
Okay, Mary Kalenchak, Lilac Point Fanciers. Yes, Tyler, you're absolutely right. You cannot qualify this for this. Your 10th cat, your cat born in the last 5 years, has to be either a grand champion or grand premier. That does not mean that DMs will not count for males. It just means that for the cats that, to make sure that they're still active, we want at least one grand champion or grand premier born after January 1st, 2016, so that we know that they're still actively breeding cats. If we allow DMs, those DMs might be from a cat that was, 20 years old. We don't know that those are still active cats.
Okay.
Thank you for answering.
Okay, Aline Shevnesky, name and club, please.
Aileen Shafnisky, Turkish Angora Fanciers International. I really disagree with, if a cat can make it to 10 grands, he can make it to 15 grands. I have several cats in my own program that could not make it past 10 or 12. I think it does a disservice for the cats that have actually gone out and achieved this, but also, I guess it depends on your breed. And because of that, I have a problem passing this, because yes, are predominant males a problem in a handful of breeds in CFA? Absolutely, huge problem. But in other breeds where people are, and I hate to put it in these terms, where people are behaving responsibly, aren't sharing their male from here to kingdom come, don't keep him breeding until he's 15, 18 years old. This feels like it's scaling back on what a DM is supposed to be. It's supposed to be an incredibly outstanding cat. And I just don't believe that it takes us in the right direction to take a title that previously, to me, the breed win and the DM are the huge breeds that you can brag on for your breeding program. I don't think we should be rolling that back. I think it should be something that people can still work responsibly and realize at a certain point they'll make it or not make it, and go ahead and neuter that male. If a male's truly outstanding, he'll make it on his own. Thank you.
Thank you, Clinton. Name and club, please.
Clinton Parker, Tonkinese East. This is one that I have a fairly good passion for. I understand what a lot of people are saying that've been around for a long time. I've been in the fancy for a long time. They feel this cheapens the status of a male DM. I have a male DM. I think it's very special. Matter of fact, I had one of the males that we DM'd. He passed away from cancer of his mouth. And when he passed away, he had 8 grands. And luckily, we had just bred him to most of the females in our breeding program, wound up granding, getting 15 DMs. He actually wound up from, because he had been used in some other breeding programs, he actually wound up with 21 grands, I think, by the time everything was all said and done. Pretty impressive. But the bottom line is that was then. That was 20 years ago. I think actually 30 years ago now. And the bottom line is things aren't the way they were 30 years ago. You don't have as many breeders. Breeders a lot of times don't do the males. It used to be a lot of males got used a lot with different breeders. We keep multiple males in our breeding program, and we don't try to overbreed them. We're not trying to have one male that we just breed to every female in our household and try to get as many grands out as we can. We go for diversity. It just isn't the same as it was many years ago. In my opinion, it's harder to get a DM on a male these days in the last 20 years than it is to get it. We have, I don't know, like to get 7 female DMs. It's much easier to get a DM on a female than it is on a male. It's just the fact of life anymore, unless unless you have a male that you're studying out to everybody. We do some stud service, but most people don't do a lot of stud service these days. So the premise was in the past that the male can sire a whole lot of females, so therefore it's a lot easier for it to get grands, and that's why the original number was 15. I just don't believe that's the case anymore, and I think even making the number 10 still makes it very special. It's still hard to get 10 grands out of a male these days, and I really think this needs to be passed.
Thank you, Clinton. Lori, you're recognized. Name and club, please.
Lori Coughlin, Greater Lancaster Feline Fanciers. I believe that the DM title is the most important one we have, and it is an indication of consistent quality. And in theory, a DM male should be able to accomplish this in not a whole lot of litters. My feeling is if we lower this number, it's going to make the threshold of success lower and make more people shoot for it. I think we're going to end up with males being used breeding more litters, whereas before they thought it's not worth going for the 15. But you could do it if you want. I think that making it 10 means people are going to keep their cats whole longer and breed more. And the second point is this arbitrary cutoff date of 2016 is whacked. If your cat's last litter produces his 14th grand the day before the cutoff, he's not a DM. But if another cat produces its 10th the day after the cutoff, it is. If you're going to establish something like this, we need to go back like 2000 and say that's the cutoff date, and make people do their research to file on it. This is if this passes, which I don't think it should, but I really think 2016 is a totally unreasonable date. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Pam Delabar, name and club, please.
Pam Delabar, Sophisticat Club, Chat Noir. When we established the Distinguished Merit Award, we had many more breeders. We had many more shows. We had larger shows. We had many more cats owned by people. We have come to a different area now in the cat fancy. One, we have to look at this from an animal welfare viewpoint. One of our top studs back in the 1980s produced over 41 grands. He did it in the US, he did it in Europe, and he did it in Japan. He also spread renal abladosis from the US to Europe to Japan. We have to focus on the health of our cats. We have to promote the fact we are focusing on the health of our cats to be able to keep our hobby. We're seeing, as I said, breed restrictive legislation pop up not only in cities, we're seeing it coming up in countries. We have got to be able to say, yes, we are using our cats in a responsible manner. We are keeping them in a responsible manner, and we are taking care of their offspring. We are not here to produce using the same cat over and over and over again until they can use the same, like same male to same female to keep producing the same grands. We do nothing to enlarge the genetic pool for that breed. We have got to start looking at ourselves seriously and to carry on from then. I originally looked at this and I thought, you know, I have bred 2 DMs, but I looked at this again and thought about it seriously. I was not originally for this. Now I am definitely strongly in favor of reducing the the grands required for a male cat for a DM.
Thank you, Pam. Carissa, you're recognized, name and club, please.
Carissa Altschul, Hugger Mugger, and Land of Oz cat clubs. Strongly against this for multiple reasons, which I'll try to go through quickly but explain thoroughly. First of all, saying a male that gets to 10 grands is equivocal to a male that gets to 15 grands is saying like a cat that gets 125 points will surely get to 200 points. So why do they have to go to 200 points? There is a reason why we do it. I can't say that any clearer. And anytime we have a rationale where we are giving in or citing animal rights points as a reason, for example, oh no, an intact male cat has to be confined, possibly in a cage, then we are saying cages are bad. We just signed our death notice. Because if we say it's bad for a male to be in a cage to sire 15 grands, then it's bad for a male to be in a cage to sire 10 grands. Then it's bad for a cat to be in a cage, period. And where are cats in our homes? If you're a responsible cat breeder, you better not have all your cats running together. That's a separate issue. Even CFA sets minimal standards for cages. Cage is not a bad word. And every time we give into that, we give the animal rights activists ammo against us. And again, we've signed our death notice. No, absolutely not. That is not a reason to change our breeding practices. Should we take care of our cats responsibly? Yes. Do we need to be good stewards of our breeds? Yes. There's this thing called premiership class. It's where we put neuters and spays. Just because a cat is a grand doesn't mean it's going into someone's breeding program. Popular sires do not equal health conditions. There are some popular sires who have passed on some incredibly good traits into a breed. And this proposal assumes that all popular sires have a negative effect. Again, animal husbandry, look into it. If you don't know it, ask someone to teach it to you. There's a lot of people here who understand very good animal husbandry and are happy to share their knowledge. Also, a male DM encourages people to work together. I've accomplished a number of male DMs and not a single one of them was done in a vacuum. I had to rely on the help and the respect of other breeders to get there. With 10, maybe I could do it on my own. Maybe I couldn't, but the magic number of 15 has definitely made me have to work with other breeders. I think what someone already brought up, the number of 10 is likely to have more people keeping males in their breeding program longer, because most people now, when a male gets to 7 or 8 grands, they generally make the decision, okay, I'm going to keep one of his sons. It's time for him to go. But at 7 or 8 grands, oh, it's only 2 or 3 away from getting that incredible, elusive, sought after title of DM. I'll keep him in my breeding program a little bit longer. And finally, for the amount of times this has been brought up and potentially will be brought up again, a bad idea is a bad idea, no matter how many times you bring it up. You can change your rationale, you can try to make us feel guilty, but there is a reason why we make this title so important. Thank you.
Thank you, Carissa. Barb Schreck, name and club, please.
Barbara Schreck, Anthony Wayne Cat Fanciers and Russian Blue Fanciers. Well, I think this is another situation of downgrading the awards. The DM is one of the most important. Anybody, and I say that lightly, can breed a grand. But for a cat to produce 5 or 15, it's a major accomplishment. And I don't think that we should be downgrading this again. We've just given out a whole bunch of ways for people to get more grants. So it should be pretty easy for you to get those extra 5 anymore, don't you think? So I disagree with this. I've had one Russian male grand who was a DM. He was 7 years old. And so it doesn't necessarily take that long if you work with other people in your breed and they work with you. But if you have a closed cattery and you're not letting anybody have what you have because you don't want them to be beating you, then you're not going to get very far. So I'm against this.
Okay, Carol Johnson, you're recognized. Club.
All right, Carol Johnson, Americans West National American Shorthair Club. I just wanted to say that there were some things that were presented as facts. While it's true that problems have been gotten from some DMs, and Pam very well described one of those problems. You can also get good traits, as was also mentioned. The main problem, I believe, with inbreeding probably has less to do with DMs, except for specific problems that have been mentioned. They do occur, but it's happening because there's fewer people breeding a wider diversity of cats. There are also other health-related reasons that you might want to close your cattery. Certainly, if you have cats that are not going in and out to other catteries, you may have an easier time managing disease. So I do support this, but I also wanted to clarify that decreasing the number of cats to get a DM on a male probably is not going to increase or change your inbreeding coefficient for your breed in general.
Thank you, Carol. Melanie Morgan, you're recognized. Name and club, please. Melanie. Okay, Clinton Parker, name and club, please. I'll come back to Melanie.
Clinton Parker, Tonkinese East. I want to go back and say some people would comment about the caging and the fact that, oh gosh, you know, if you have a male and you're going to try to get to 10, you're going to cage it longer. I don't know how many people are out there breeding it. Debbie and I, we certainly we're not doing our breeding based on the fact of whether we think we're going to get a DM or not. It's certainly not, it's something that we're taking into consideration. We think about it, but it isn't our motivation behind it. Frankly, I think there is a more likelihood, if you want to worry about how long a cat's going to be in a cage, if you have a male that's gotten 10 grands, you might say, well, gee, maybe I ought to keep him, see if I can get 5 more to get a DM. I think you're more likely to have that issue that people are talking about with the longer requirement. I think that I go back to what I said before. Think of how many female DMs there are versus how many male DMs. There isn't an equal playing field right now. I don't know why we should make the males so much more special than the females. To me, they're both special awards, and it shouldn't be that it like also there's a premium of much harder getting a DM on a male than there is getting a DM on a female. A lot of breeders or a lot of catters are getting a lot. We're not like we were where you had like a breeder had 20 cats in the breeding program or something many years ago. The male could produce a lot more grands. Or if they work with a lot more people in the fancy, a lot more potential people in your breed that you could outcross a top male to get grands from it. That just doesn't exist anymore. I mean, the reality is that does not exist. And so you're really to the point where you're making it so that you're putting in something that the level of achievement for the award is so much higher tier than it is for the female. And I just don't think it's a reasonable thing anymore. It's still a female is based on how many litters it has, pretty much. It's not how many litter a male produces. It's a lot. You have to produce a lot more to get 15 grands, and they're just not. They're not the males in most breeding programs just don't breed that as many females as they did years ago. So your chances of getting 15 grands, or even for a top quality male, is just so much less. Anyway, I'll cut it that.
Thank you. That was your second time in debate, Clinton, so
I know.
your debate has expired. I don't see Melanie back on yet.
She's, yeah, she's
Okay.
back in again.
Okay, but I don't see her hand
Yeah,
up
she's
yet.
joining.
So Melanie, if you can raise your hand, I'll go to Lorna, and then I'll recognize you as soon as Lorna is done. So Lorna, go ahead. Name and club.
Lorna Fremont, Almost Heaven Cat Club. I have bred 2 male DMs. One of them was an American Bobtail and the other was a Balinese. As a breeder of minority breeds, sometimes it's not a matter of not wanting to share your males and their offsprings, but sometimes it's simply lack of interest, or maybe there's just not available breeders in your area that work with your breed that want to use your males as stud. I completely agree with what was stated that sometimes once you get to 10 cats, you're going to breed litters that are not necessarily needed for your gene pool to get to 15. And I completely support lowering this to 10. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Melanie Morgan, you're recognized.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep, your connection.
Can you hear me? Okay, Melanie Morgan. Gems Global Egyptian Male.
Okay.
I feel really strongly. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Daryl, for being patient with my connection.
It's okay, I know.
I feel really strongly about this one. The DM title is one of the most coveted titles in CFA. It's certainly one that means a lot to me. And I'm lucky enough to have a number of male DMs, none of whom I believe were overbred. It is easy to use rhetoric about popular sire syndrome, et cetera. But in reality, I don't think that that issue truly is as prevalent as we might be led to believe by the people who want to be alarmist with that. I kind of resent the implication that this is an animal welfare issue. There may be instances where the cats are overused, but I truly don't think it's the norm. This title is supposed to denote excellence as a breeding animal. And I'm sorry, I'm disconnecting. I feel that a cat that deserves this title can easily achieve the title really before he's 3 or 4 years old even. So that's certainly not overusing a kitty or keeping them whole way too long. So if this award rewards consistent excellence and success, it doesn't mean that we don't care about our animals. That's point number 1. Then point number 2 is the question was asked, what does grand number 11 through 15 prove beyond 10 grands? I believe that was thrown out to us at the very beginning. By that logic, what's the difference between 1 grand or 2 or 5? This title is supposed to be difficult to achieve. It's supposed to be aspirational. It's supposed to actually mean something. I choose to believe in the breeding integrity of our CFA breeders as a whole. I don't believe that the majority, and I stress majority, of our CFA breeders will keep a cat whole just to get to 15 grands. I do actually believe that, as was stated earlier, that there's a higher chance that people may try to push that envelope and maybe hold on to a kitty and keep them whole a little bit longer if they only have to get to 10. I understand there's always exceptions. The numbers I have seen, however, point to the fact that granding a cat is getting easier rather than more difficult. The overall percentage of cats granding right now is higher. So if we pass this, we are in effect making the title less and less meaningful. We're making it easier, and we're in a situation where it's easier to grand a cat, and we're making the number lower. So it's kind of like double dipping. This title is so very, very special and so meaningful for so many of us. Please don't continue to lower the bar. And thank you for being patient with my connection issues.
Yep, we understand, Melanie. Thank you for your input. Ginger Beaker, you're recognized. Name and club, please.
Ginger Meeker, Cleveland Persian. We have the proud distinction of having bred the first American bred British short hair DM male. We worked our hearts out for that honor and privilege. And during the time that we worked with this cat, he was genetically tested for everything that could possibly be tested. And the females that we agreed to breed him to were also genetically screened for every possible problem that they had. We wanted to be sure that we were producing cats of the highest quality that really could improve the breed. I think cats can bring positive things to a breed as well as negative. I can remember 2 people that were showing kittens for us, stating that when they were showing their kittens, the judges asked who the sire was and said, "Oh, I know it. Those kittens all have incredibly good temperaments." So I think there's something to be said for keeping the DM at 15. It's special. I think if you're committed to a breed and making the breed better and doing it with excellent husbandry and genetics, I don't see any reason to lower the standard. Thank you.
Thank you, Ginger. Donna Fuller, name and club, please. You're recognized.
Donna Fuller, Russian Blues West and San Francisco Revelers. I have the honor, I believe, of having the most male Russian Blue DMs in CFA. Just sitting here without looking at my records, I think I have 5. And every one of them was earned. And I just feel that if we lower to 10, it really discounts what we did before when we really, really worked to get everything just right. Now, actually, I think 2 of my boys are father and son DMs, and also national winners. But I'm not sure I would have even bothered to claim them back then if it only took 10. Please don't discount what is the most important breeding title we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Mary Kay, I'll offer you a closing statement.
Are you sure I'm last?
There's no other hands up, Mary Kay. You are the last one.
Okay. I do not believe that lowering this requirement from 15 to 10 discounts any cats that already have the title. Hang on just a minute. Catherine, I'm talking. Okay, what it does is it recognizes that things have changed. Everything that Pam Delabar said, 100% I agree with. Everything has changed since this was established, and we need to recognize that fact. Also, I wanted to make a comment that to Carissa, I did not say that a cat that gets 10 is equivocal to 15. And seriously, I don't appreciate people taking my words and changing them. I said that if a cat can get 10, that it can get 15 given enough time. And I stand by that. Unless the cat dies or the owner neuters it, a cat that can produce 10 grands has the ability to produce 15. I did not say that they were equivocal, but you know, there's a lot of emotion involved in this title, and I have the same amount of emotion because I am seeing such a lack of genetic diversity in my breed. And I really think that we are overemphasizing the use of our males with this title.
Thank you, Mary Kay. Okay, debate on item 23 is now closed. Okay, we will close the voting on motion 22. Rachel, will you announce the result of 22?
Proposal 22 regarding adoption of the clone cat policy received 229 yes votes. That would qualify it for carrying by 2/3.
Thank you so much for that announcement. Okay, so I'm going to have Aline open the voting on 23. This is the amendment that we were just discussing, or the non-show rule resolution. So number 23 is now open for voting. I want to also tell you that from the floor 105, which is really number 20, You can vote for both of those at the same time now. So voting is open. And if you'll give us a minute, we'll get ready to present 2 resolutions from the floor. So please, everyone, cast your votes for 23 and 105. Okay, since we had the 5 resolutions from the floor, when Aline opened up the voting, it opened up the voting for all 5 resolutions. So please, on resolution 101 and 102, which will be resolutions from the floor, hold off voting until you're instructed to do so. So, but before we handle the resolutions from the floor, we have a Star Awards presentation, and then we also have Kathy Calhoun's wonderful. You guys are going to smile when you hear these mellifluous words coming from Kathy Calhoun's mouth.
May I
Okay.
oh, sorry. May I make a clarification?
Yes.
So just so everyone understands, because by the voting results, I don't think this was clear. We're voting on question number 23, which had to do with the DM requirement, as well as the revote on proposal number 20, which is to remove the 5% decrements. And that is now question 105. We've already voted on it, but we're revoting just to make it a clean result. And the votes don't seem to be coming in for that one. So I wanted to pull that out and explain that 105 is a revote of 20 that we've already voted on. Okay.
Thank you, Rachel, for making that clarification. So 23, that's a Mary Kay's DM proposal that's open, and 105, which was 20, now renamed 105, and that's the decrease in decrement for cram points.
Correct.
So shall we close voting on 23 and 105? So we're going to close the voting on 23 and 105. And Rachel, would you mind announcing 23?
23 regarding the DM requirement received 143 votes, which is 144, which is the number required to pass by 50%.
Okay.
Question 105, which again relates back to proposal 20 to remove the 5% decrements, received 134 yes votes, which would fail the motion.
Okay. All right, thank you for those results. And let me see what's next. Star Wars, we've done the. Okay, next on the agenda is the treasurer's report. So Kathy Calhoun, you're on with that beautiful report you're going to show us.
All right. I think I should have music.
I do too.
I mean, after all, the report is like 76 pages long. So, you know, don't panic. Don't panic. I'm just kidding.
You may need 3 songs.
Yeah. So here we go. All right. Okay. So hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Happy Juneteenth, and happy, we'll go all the way out to Sunday, Father's Day. Oh, this is a big weekend. Happy annual. All right. So in this report, we are going to compare the top 3 to 4 expense categories and the top 3 to 4 income categories. So if we just flip to the next page. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right. So the top 3 expense categories include central office at 54%, CFA programs at 10%, and computer expense at 9%. Now, keep in mind, this is comparing last season, which was an unusual year because normally if we had an international or an annual, those expenses would rise up to the top of, ahead of some of these others. But in this instance, we didn't. So we're going to talk about these top 3 or 4. Next page. So computer expense. On a lot of our expenses and our income categories were influenced by the pandemic, but not so much the computer expense categories. Most of the work continued. There's a great focus on the genetics project, and we continue to see data storage costs increase. So we'll see a little bit of an increase over the year compared to the prior year. But the IT team is actively reviewing ways to mitigate future cost increases, particularly in that data storage area. So we would go to the next page. The next page is program expense. Now, program expense is largely driven by show sponsorship distributions to clubs. So given the fact that we had fewer shows in this past season due to COVID-19, of course, the show sponsorship numbers declined as well. So if from a program expense perspective, it was reduced by 51%. Next page. All right, now we're going to talk about central office. Reducing expenses was a major focal point for the central office in 2020, 2021. The central office, led by Executive Director Aline Tartaglia, made very tough decisions that were necessary, including furloughing employees, staff reductions, employees taking on additional responsibilities. All these things were done to mitigate costs. And I would say that as a result, the team came out of this season more unified and stronger than ever. The resulting savings compared to 2019, 2020 was $243,000, almost $244,000. That's just amazing. The central office did a phenomenal job. Phenomenal job. Job well done. And thank you, central office. Can't say enough. Okay, next page. And although board meeting expense didn't rise to the top 3, I wanted to bring it into this discussion. One of the things that the board did was, as did the whole entire world, was to pivot from in-person meetings to virtual meetings, and we use the Zoom platform. That pivot in and of itself resulted in a savings of almost $89,000. That's just amazing. It wasn't, it's difficult. The face-to-face interaction is certainly, a thing that we want. It certainly contributes to the business. But I would say that the board did a phenomenal job of getting the work done, communication, and those sorts of things via Zoom. So that savings dropped right down to the bottom line. Great job. Next page. Okay, so now we're going to go to income. And the 3 categories that we will talk about here is individual and litter registration, which brings in about 45% of our income, cattery registration, 17%, and investments at 10%. So we would go to the next page. CFA experienced a phenomenal year relative to investments. These investments were partially guided by Rich Maston, who is a CFA president, and I promoted him to the director of finance, which is not correct. He is the chair of the finance committee, along with a number of other committees. Rich's recommendations were timely, accurate. His attention to detail relative to changes in the market really paid off for CFA. As a result, the value of CFA's investments last year increased dramatically, almost reaching $250,000. And I would like to add that even this year, in a month and a half that we've had in this season, we've seen an increase of about $25,000. Rich likes to say that there was a little bit of luck involved. Well, I would say the combination of luck, talent, and attention to detail is a winning combination. Job well done. All right, next page. Category registration, and this includes both new categories and renewals. So what we did here was to take the comparison from 2018-2019 season that was completely not impacted by the pandemic and compare that to 2020-2021, which was completely impacted by the pandemic. And we still saw an increase. As you can see, that trend has continued to go up and it didn't stop this past season. This category increased 3.71%. Amazing. Next page. All right. This is where the majority, 45% of our income is sourced in registration. We had a extremely strong season, even though we were impacted by the global pandemic. There was a reduction, but the actual change compared to the prior season was only $39,724, which is, it was only a 3.37% reduction. That is amazing. And what that tells me, you know, as we spoke about other areas and people doing a yeoman's job, the cat fanciers remain faithful to their cats, to their breeding programs, and to CFA. This is a huge shout out, a huge thank you to the cat fanciers globally. You did your part. Thank you so much. Next page, please. Drum roll. All right, here we go. So the bottom line for last season that was under the complete influence of a pandemic with all the hardships and isolation and all of the challenges that went along with that, CFA will realize a profit of $553,095. That is amazing. And everybody contributed to that. Now, I will say, these are unaudited financials. I have to do that. From time to time, the auditors will make a little tweak. So if you see a report that comes out that's a little bit different, there could be minor changes. But 553, I'll take anything in that ballpark. So great, great, great job. The entire cat fancy remains true. Okay, we're getting down to the very, very end because it's getting toward Miller time. So income and expenses, we kind of do this and we want to continue the income expense comparison so people can kind of see how we've trended over the past 10 seasons, and then the 11th being the budget for this year. So this budget, upcoming budget for this year that we are currently in, 2021-2022, we are conservatively forecasting a net income of about $110,000. We've been very, very conservative on calculating registration numbers, on calculating central office costs, and calculating what investments may bring forth, because we know those things change. So we've been very, very conservative. We're putting some money back into programs, and I think we should be headed in the right direction with this number, $110,000. Last slide. Okay, I just want to call out the budget committee that works on the budget, and we have parts of the committee that meet every month to take a look at the numbers and make sure everything is going in the right direction. And that would include myself, Rich Maston, Teresa Sweeney, Eileen Tartaglia, Matthew Wong, who calls in from Hong Kong in the middle of the night, and then Robert you may not recognize Robert, he's a CPA. Robert is we've contracted that out. We used to have a full-time person doing that work. And by actually going to Robert's firm, we have the quality of the work is outstanding and it saves us money. So we included Robert because he is definitely part of our team. But I really want to just give a great shout out to that team. We work very well together, and most of us have been together for a really long time. That's it. If any questions?
So Kathy, there's only one thing wrong with your report. And hang on a second here. I don't know what's going on here.
Uh-oh.
I can't get the participants list up so I can see hands. Anyway, after that slide where you have $553,000, you need to insert a slide with lots of fireworks going off.
You're right.
Okay. Because that would sort of be the icing on the cake.
You're absolutely right.
What a fantastic, fantastic treasurer's report. Thank you so much.
Well,
okay.
Everybody did their part. Everybody. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
There it is. I got it now. Okay. All right. So resolutions from the floor.
Much better.
Okay, that's better. Thank you. Okay, our first resolution from the floor is 101, and the delegate is Mark Hannon. Mark, welcome.
Thank you very much. Mark Hannon from the Cat Fanciers of Washington. First, I want to take a couple seconds to thank everybody that voted for me this year. And I want to congratulate Melanie, George, Carol, and Annette on their election as well. I look forward to working with them. The resolution, once a cat has completed the requirements for championship or premiership, a claim form should be submitted to the central office along with the appropriate fee. For subsequent championship or premiership titles, that is bronze, silver, and gold, the appropriate request should be submitted to the central office. There will be no fee for these titles. These additional titles will only be provided upon request. The only change I'm making to the current practice is we will no longer charge a fee for the bronze, silver, and gold. Currently, the central office is tracking gram points, which means they're not doing anything extra for the bronze, silver, and gold other than checking with the computer to see how many gram points they have on record for the cat.
I got it. I can't see the participants again.
Nobody has their hand up.
Okay.
So voting is.
Okay, there's a hand, but Kathy Black.
Yes, I was wondering if Aline has any numbers as to how much revenue has been generated by these titles so far?
Not offhand, no.
Can you give us a swag?
We'd have to look at the financials. I wasn't prepared for this. It's a resolution from the floor.
I will also mention that any resolution not pre-noticed will require 2/3 vote.
It's going to take me a few minutes.
Okay, it's going to say Barb Schreck, you're recognized. Name and club, please.
Barbara Schreck, Anthony Wayne Cat Fanciers, and Russian Blue Fanciers. There is still some work involved in assuring that this is the case. Do we issue a piece of paper to these people? I can't remember, but there is still some small amount of work that is required of central office in order to confirm this, I believe.
I suggested he provide.
Okay. Mary Kay, name and club, please.
Mary Kalenchek, Lilac Point Fanciers. I'm actually asking for a point of clarification here. You said that items from the floor, things that aren't pre-noticed, require 2/3. That's never been our practice before. Our practice before was that anything presented of the floor has to be passed by the board. You can do whatever you want to the show rules, regardless of what we do here. So I want to know where you're getting the 2/3 from, because that's not ever been the requirement before.
Robert's rules. Shelley, would you like to address it?
Can I have a clear statement of the question?
In the past,
I'll-
items from the floor have not required 2/3. They have only required a favorable vote because the board considers them and is not required to pass them. So, for example, let's say we vote one of these down, but the board likes the idea. The board can implement it anyhow. So I would like to know where, since these are non-show rule resolutions, why they're suddenly requiring 2/3. I don't recall that ever having been required before.
So any motion that is not pre-noticed requires 2/3 under Robert's rules, and any motion that is pre-noticed does not, it is a majority unless it's an amendment to the Constitution at the annual. So, or there's other rules, but the bottom line is that this is not a pre-noticed motion. And so under Robert's rules, because no one had notice of it until we got here, it requires 2/3 vote to pass.
Mary Kay?
Whatever, because I still think that if these, even if these fail, this is something the board can do on their own, regardless of what happens here. So whatever.
Okay, Leslie Carr, you're recognized. Name and club.
Leslie Carr, Rome Cat Forum. And I'm questioning, I just have a question on this resolution 101, because first of all, it does not reference any of the show rules that apply to the different tiers of championship, premiership titles. And looking at the show rules, because I wanted to see what this was, it says under 2705C, a bronze, silver, or gold champion premier claim can be made by submitting the confirmation form available on the CFA website. See current price list for applicable fees. Wouldn't it be easier just to change the price list? Is that what this is asking to have done? I'm very confused by what this is actually referring to. I think I know what the intent is, but where in the rules are you trying to make a change?
Okay, Clinton Parker, you're recognized. Name and club, please.
Clinton Parker, Tonkinese East. I don't think that I apologize, but I kind of question the Robert Rules of Order issue here, because this is a resolution that's going to be like a pre-notice resolution that if it passes by 2/3, the board has to implement it. It's still going to go for advisory. So I don't really think the vote has any meaning other than whether the board, it passed saying, hey, the majority of the people voted on it, say we're in favor of it. In either way it goes, as Mary is saying, it's up to the board to decide whether they're going to implement it or not. So I think in the past, we've always done, if it's a majority that was passed on to the board as a favorable vote from the delegates. And then it's up to the board to decide what to do with it. As I said, it's not a motion. It's going to be implemented or not implemented based on the vote we have. So I think Mary's correct. It's always been the way we passed it. I don't think it's the Robert's Rule of Order, because it's not like if we get a 2/3 vote on this, the board's going to implement this as a show rule. It says that either way, no matter how we vote on it, it's going to go to the board for them to decide what they do with it.
Okay, Ginger Meeker, you're recognized. Name and club, please.
Ginger Meeker, Cleveland Persian. Clinton just shot my fox. I was just wanting to make sure that if we passed it by 2/3, if it was going to become something that the board did not have to implement in addition. I don't see how you can have it both ways.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, before, when we passed it with a majority, the board had to yay or nay it. It became a board issue. If it's passing by 2/3, why does the board still need to do anything further with it? It's 2/3 of the elected membership.
Because it's just like every pre-notice motion that passed will be presented at the October meeting for ratification by the board of directors.
Okay.
Okay, Monty?
Monty Phillips, Captain on the Fox, just a point of clarification, because I've been dealing with these for over 12 years. When you pass a resolution from the floor, it doesn't necessarily actually reflect the full text of the show rule. What will go to the board in October will be full text of the show rule to implement whatever it is you pass. I usually work with the presenter to do that.
Okay. Well, you may be working closely with the presenter soon. Tyler Deal, you're recognized.
Tyler Deal, Ohio State Persian Club, piggybacking off of Leslie Carr's previous comments where it says see current price list for applicable fees. I've got the price list pulled up from the website effective October 5th, 2019. I do not see anything other than championship confirmation, nothing regarding bronze, silver, or gold championship confirmation fees. So why do we need to change the show rules when currently there is no fee, at least according to the price list? Thank you.
Claim form.
It's on the claim form.
Provide
The championship claim form.
Well, if there's a championship claim form, it should be recognized, or it should be reflected in the price list, I would assume, since that's the way the show rules are currently written.
And Central Law, Aline said they missed updating that on the price list. But it is,
okay.
It is on the championship claim confirmation.
and in the catalog.
And in the catalog.
Okay, thank you. No further comments.
You're very welcome. Kathy Black, your hand's up. Kathy Black, your mic's muted. Okay, Barb Schreck, your hand's up. Barb. Monty, your hand's still up.
No, I thought I turned it off. I have nothing.
Okay, thank you. Monty,
Got it off.
Yeah, I got it off finally.
okay, everybody's off. Okay. So Mark, did you want to make a closing statement?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, all I'm trying to do is eliminate the fee for the bronze, silver, and gold championship forms. I'll be happy to work with Monty. If there's a show rule change, I'll work with Aline. If it's a price list change, I just want to do away with the fee for the advanced championship premiership titles.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So let's go ahead and open up voting for 101, Aline.
It is open.
Oh, that's right, it is open. I made the announcement earlier. So please, everyone, on floor resolution 101, you can vote on that one. Don't vote on number 102 until it's presented. Okay, so the debate is closed on 101. So floor resolution 102, almost heaven, that's Lorna Fremont.
Lorna Fremont, Almost Heaven Cat Club. This is the same as amendment number 14 with the change of one word. The show rule amendment would allow cats who have left the show hall to retain awards from finals called after advertised show hours. An entry must be present and available for class judging when the time for the judging of each entry is reached. When an entry has been removed from the show hall, is not available to be present for a final taking place during the advertised show hours, it is ineligible for a finals award. When the final takes place after the close of advertised show hours, if a cat chosen for the final is no longer present in the show hall, the judge may hang its award on an empty cage. Entries chosen for a final that is posted after advertised show hours are eligible to retain the points for that final, even if they have left the show hall.
Okay, so the floor motion is open for debate. Okay, I don't see any hands up. You want to make a closing statement, Lorna?
I would really appreciate your support of this proposal. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So floor motion number 102 is now open for voting. So if everybody will cast their votes for 101 and 102, they're both open for voting. And those are our two resolutions from the floor today. So what, 5 minutes? Give everybody 5 minutes.
A couple more.
So we'll leave the voting open for 5 minutes to give everybody a chance. I know that sometimes the internet connections and stuff are a little bit strained. But so after we announce these votes, and the next is the adjournment of the annual meeting. Anyway, I'd like to go on record thanking all of you delegates. You've done a fabulous job. Everybody kept on track. We didn't get a whole lot of anecdotal stories that wandered off that made the meeting. And so I appreciate that, trying to keep the meeting on track. And again, I want to go on record, Aline and Rich and everybody here at central office have done a phenomenal job. When we started talking about this, I was, oh my God, I was just, I didn't see how it would be possible to have an online meeting with nearly 300 people on. This has been absolutely phenomenal. After we had our board meeting yesterday, I said, okay, we got this down. This delegate meeting online is going to go smooth. And again, thank you, Aline. Thank you, Rich, everyone involved here at central office to make this a smooth annual. And above all, thank you to all the delegates who registered and participated in this meeting. I also want to make sure I thank all the delegates for supporting the constitutional amendments. I realize that there might have been a typo here or there. Mary Kay has got an eagle eye, and I'm sure next year at our in-person delegate meeting at the Galt House in Kentucky, we will see those corrections made because Mary is excellent at writing a proposal and fixing corrections. So again, thank you, everybody. Pete Deal, you're recognized.
Yes, if we could go back to number 20, it passed with 144 votes earlier, and then it went to 105 and failed with 135 votes. I would hope the board would take that into consideration that it originally passed.
So what was the vote count there?
It was actually 147, number 20, the final vote.
Okay.
And the revote was 134.
And it needed how many to get 50?
144.
143.
143. Okay, so it's short how many votes?
9.
Okay. Well, we'll have to have the attorney investigate that, Pete, and see. Shelley.
I have an opinion already.
Okay, yeah, go
I
ahead.
already ruled the earlier vote out of order because, we talked about it. When you went to the voting software, there was a different description about what you were voting. So some people could have been confused and thought they were voting for a different motion. So I ruled it out of order. We put it back in. We have an accurate vote under 105. And so I think the vote under 105 stands. And there's nothing we can do about that at this time.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. Joan, you're recognized.
Yes, Joan Freidenberg, Superstition Cat Fanciers. Could Elaine or whoever's doing the vote count repeat the number of yes votes for each of the resolutions? I did not get everything written down, whether they passed or did not pass.
Are you talking about all of the resolutions?
Yes, just go down the list and say passed, did not pass.
I can do that, but it will all be in the minutes.
Okay.
And the problem was halfway through, we changed the number, and I have it in my actual document, but to scroll through it would be would take a long time, and this is not something that I was prepared to do because we don't usually do it.
Right. Okay, thank you.
All right, all these numbers are going to be printed in the minutes. So you'll have, and you'll post the recording of the meeting too, right?
Yes.
Okay, and the meeting, recording of the meeting will be posted also, Joan.
And if you have specific items that you were out of the room for or whatever, I'd be happy to do, one or two and look those up for you.
Okay, Steve McCullough, you're recognized.
And they'll be in
I was
the,
just gonna say a big thank you to all at central office from Region 3 for our virtual annual. Something probably never happen again, but that's the way it goes some days. So thank you all. It went really smooth and I appreciate all the hard work that went into it and all the effort from not only my annual teams, but from central offices teams.
Okay, Clinton Parker, you're recognized.
Oh, God.
Oh, I was just waving my hand to say, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's all. I waved and put it up, down again.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, Shelley. Shelley Perkins, you're recognized.
I lowered my hand. Sorry about that.
Okay, Rachel is going to announce the vote on the two resolutions from the floor.
question 101 regarding the fee for the brown, silver, gold claim is received 168, and that would pass by 50%. But we need 2/3.
We
is
need
that correct?
2/3.
Okay. Resolution 102 is the re-presentation of original number 14 regarding hanging on an empty cage. It received 114 yes votes, and that one failed.
Okay. And as Mark said, he's going to work with Monty, and a show rule resolution can be brought in front of the board. And so even though this didn't get the 2/3 because it wasn't pre-noticed, it can be brought up as a new original main motion. So Mark, you get with Monty and look for an email from me later tonight. Anybody else have anything to, Joan, you and Steve still have your hand up. Pam Delabar, you're recognized.
Pam Delabar, Sophisticat Club, and Shot Noir. I just wanted you to see what 2 o'clock in the morning looks like in Finland, Daryl.
All right. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, Carmen, you're recognized.
I know Carmen Johnson Lawrence, Genesee Cat Fanciers, Seneca Cat Fanciers. I know that Shelley has gone ahead and called number 20 out of order, but I'm curious, was the number of votes between number 20 and 105 the same amount? Not so much the number of yes votes, but the total number of votes. Were they equal?
Are we?
What difference does it
I
make?
can give you the number, but it doesn't matter because it would.
Well, the difference that it would make is Shelley is claiming that it's 105 is an accurate vote, but if the numbers, your total number of votes are way off, then it really isn't an accurate vote.
Well, this happens at almost every annual when people leave the meeting, and then it's a difficult time to get the required number of votes. So Shelley she's one of the top-notch attorneys in Oregon, and you won't find anybody that's more dedicated to the truth and accuracy than Shelley. She's done a marvelous job. And I understand the frustration and I understand the concern, but every year there's resolutions that don't get passed and we all suffer heartburn from that. So Kathy Dirty, I'm sure, had no ill intent when she put the wrong resolution up for 20. And so Shelley ruled it out of order because you can't vote on something when the documentation is incorrect. So it had to be ruled out of order. And then we thought the easiest way to do it was to do it from a resolution from the floor. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was George who made that recommendation, also an attorney in the United States. And I understand the frustration, but that's how it goes. So I'm sorry, Carmen.
And so I think Daryl and I both tried our hardest to point people's attention there because of the way that it all came down. I really tried to encourage everybody to make sure they voted for question 23, which was on the floor at that time, as well as question 105. And I just wasn't seeing the numbers.
Sue Robbins, you're recognized. Name and club, please. You're muted, Sue.
Sue Robbins, Delaware River Cats Club. It's been a wonderful, wonderful annual, and I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Okay, let me make sure no one else has their hand up. It's not.
Okay.
Sorry.
I second that.
I'm not sure who said that, but
It was civil.
was that Sue? Okay. All right. Thank you all again very much. Tomorrow will be council secretary on the International Division meeting. And then Sunday morning, the new board will convene primarily for assignment of committee chairs and liaisons to other committee chairs that are not board members. So the meeting now stands adjourned. Thank you very much.